We have with us the team of the movie Tamara. The film is a social drama that explores the journey of Tio Almanza and the search of true self, his true self. It depicts the struggle with the social taboos as well as inner conflicts regarding who a person wants to become in the life, in contrast with what the society wants him or her to be. Ultimately, the film is a reaction to the norms and codes of conduct prescribed by society that refuse any change attributed to the human condition. It is a film about a kind of hatred against transgenders, which is called transphobia. Here at the IFFI 2016, the world premiere of this mid-fest movie was held in a gala screening at the Kala Academy yesterday. Now, coming to the distinguished team here, we have with us Ms. Elia Schneider, who is a critically acclaimed film and theater writer, director, and producer from Venezuela. We also have with us Mr. Joseph Novoa, who is the producer and editor of the movie. We have Ms. Prakriti Maduro, who is the lead actor, Mr. Fernandez, the lead actor, and last but not the least, Ms. Tamara Adrain, who has inspired the film, is also with us. Now I would request all of you to put your mobile phone on silent and we'll have an interaction with the team. I'll request you, ma'am, Elia ma'am, to tell us something about the movie, and after that we can have a question answer round.
The movie, well, thank you very much for coming. The movie was first, we did the movie, started to do the movie 5 years ago. My son introduced me to Tamara. Tamara and our team talked to her, and we thought about doing a fiction inspired by her story. I found her story very important. I always dealt with social issues and human rights issues. It's not the first time. And for me, it was a very, very important theme to debate and to know. And that's why I started to think about doing this film. I think that's a short introduction.
Mr. Joseph, would you want to share your experiences while filming the movie?
Well, after they meet for the first time, Tamara and Elia, we tried to coordinate to have the script with Fernando Butazzoni in the beginning. He was one of the writers, and have a lot of interview with Tamara in order to get an approach of the subject and know the story and take that story as an inspiration and develop the script. And when the script was in the first draft prepared, we started trying to financing the movie. There was no easy job. We did that in international co-production between Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Ibermedia, that is Spain. And we did the setup of the financing plan, and it was not easy to do it. We have a part of that coming from the CENAC, that is a film institute, and because Venezuela is living in a bad financial situation and political situation, it was very difficult to keep a budget that it was every time disappearing because of the inflation and all the situation. But finally, we finished the movie this year, in the 16th. Now it's opening in Venezuela with a great success, and this is the international war opening. And we are very happy to be here in India with this movie.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Now I'll leave the floor open for questions. Anybody can ask. Yeah, ma'am, at the back.
How much of the story is factual and if there is a flight of imagination there?
Ms. Tamara would like to answer.
Yeah, I will say it, briefly that it could be around 40% reality and 60% fiction, but the other 60% is not fiction in the essential sense of the word, because it's the life of many other trans people. In fact, trans population is all around the world the most neglected, underprivileged, and excluded population. And of course, the fact that many other lives are experiences are included in the script allows to have a much more universal and broader view of the problem.
My question is to Elia. What were the challenges you faced while directing?
Okay, the first challenge was, of course, the screenplay, which was very hard to. I think fiction has its own rules, and I didn't want to, this film to be a biopic, because that wouldn't allow me to go where the fiction goes. So how not to tell the story of Tamara was the first one, and which was the possibility to grow with the fantasy and the fiction. Then after that, during the shooting, I had the institution asking me all kind of questions like, why do I change this and why do I change and that, and this has to be with a rule that has the institution, where you have to report every change that you do to the screenplay, and then they have to approve the changes. So if you're in a shooting and you want to change something, you first have to ask them the permission. So that made it very uncomfortable to shoot, because you have a lot of problems, and a part of that you have to go through all this bureaucratic process, and that was not very nice. And then after, the other was to go through the phases of the character, which was one of the biggest challenge, because you had to go from when this character starts the film, and then how it grows and how it transforms. And of course, I had a lot of help of Luis, who is absolutely detailed and obsessive with all these picky and little details. And it was great but it was a challenge. It was a very big challenge. I think that's
especially with the fact of the script is that Elia, when he changed something, they want to keep it the way that she changed it. We don't take care too much about the suggestion to keep it that way or not that way. The film is done the way we want it, and that creates some difficulties extra.
Yes.
How does it affect both Luis and Prakriti, if you could tell me? If both of the lead actors could elaborate on how did this film affect you personally in your... I know a lot of preparation goes when an actor prepares for a role like this,
yes.
A difficult role. How did it affect
Well, I think this is one of the most remarkable stories of a journey towards oneself that one can witness and be part of. So I feel privileged to not only have encountered this role with such complexity and depth, but also to be led by Elia and by Tamara in all the details that made me encounter the woman that I would have been if that would have been my gender identity. That was very hard to do. It took a lot of previous preparation. But you ask about how it changed my life. I think we all go through, at some point or another in our lives, through a stage of being oneself, finding ourselves, and bringing that honesty and that true face to the world. And this is the ultimate case of self-honesty and integrity that you can find in a character. So it was for me to play a character that I admire so much and I love so much, inspired by a woman I'm privileged to call my friend. and that is leveling the ground for the evolution of the collective consciousness, makes me very humble and very happy to bring my whatever professional expertise I have to bring to life this story that needed to be told. I'm very proud of this film. I think it's an important film. And especially in our countries, like India and Venezuela, we are a world apart, literally, but we face the same challenges. We are struggling with human rights for women, human rights for children, human rights for the lesbian and gay community, and especially human rights for the transgender community that's been so neglected, as Tamara said. So to bring this story forward and to be able to make the audience ask themselves the difficult questions that this movie brings, I think it's a major step towards evolution. I understand that maybe religion and conservative moral values are against this evolution, but I do believe that we live in a different world, and as religious people demand respect for their faith, people who are not religious like myself also are deserving of the same respect. And it doesn't really matter what we think, what our God think, and what our values and morals think about the transgender community. We have to respect them because human rights are for all humans.
My question is for Elia. Hi, pardon me, I haven't watched the film, but my question to you is, what are the stereotypes associated with the transgender community in your social setting, and how have you tried to overcome that through your film?
Los estereotipos. ¿Cuáles son los estereotipos típicos de asociados a la transexualidad con los que tuviste que lidiar y cómo superaste esos estereotipos para controlarse?
Well, you ask me myself, you mean? I mean, what I had to go through about the stereotypes? That's what you're... Well, I didn't know anything about all this. I started to do this film very like an adventure. For me, every film is an adventure. So I started like to understand all the world that happens. For me, it's like any other minority. Transgender minority is also can be Indian minority or Jewish minority or any minority. And that's the link that I got to there. I'm a daughter of survivors of the Holocaust, so for me it was very important, all the themes that has to do with minorities and with exclusion and with hunger and all that. So I was very sensitive, but I started to do the film without any knowledge of that, and I think I observed the reality more than I wanted to opinion. I had to have an opinion. I wanted to do a film about how I observe and how I testify whatever I observe. And that's the way I started. I don't think I had a close vision. I wanted to know. That was all the time my aim. It was like, I wanted to see what is really there. And for me, that was the film. But I don't know if I'm answering your question. Maybe you can explain it more.
What I meant was, what are the different stereotypes that are associated with transgenders from where you come from?
From here or
from Venezuela?
I think Tamara can answer that much better than me.
And the second part of the question is, how has that been portrayed in the film?
Okay, so she can answer first and then I can.
Yeah, I guess that besides slight difference arising from cultural backgrounds, the reality that involves trans communities all around the world, it's mostly the same. It's exclusion, violence, lack of opportunities, lack of the right of proper identity, a lack of a right to get a proper job, a decent job, and in fact, it's the whole society that is willing to put you besides the limits of the society, and And that's a common struggle for trans population all around the world. And I guess that what it's much needed in this world is to show that it's not a fate for trans community to be excluded, and that they have to fight in order to have equal rights, and that you have the ability to do so. An example such as I don't know, Catherine Jenner's, or the fact that my story is told in this film, or other stories. And now I am an elected member of the Parliament of Venezuela by popular vote for 65% of the votes in Caracas, more than 1.2 million votes. It's an example that you can do it, and that you can achieve equal rights.
And I think in the film, I don't know what else to answer, but it is. We took all this in account, and we had through this character, we had the first part when it starts, how this character struggles to go through society in the conventional way, and then they can't adjust because the need to have not only your rights, but inside, whatever the need of the character is so strong that there is nothing that is stronger for him. And then he reassigns, and he has to do it. There is no question about that. And I think this is going through the film. Whenever you need to take your own destiny in your hands, and you want to, you need to do it. It is not a problem of I want or I don't want. It is something that it has to be there. And I think this is the essence of the film.
Yeah.
Your film was screened yesterday, so how was the feedback?
Talk to us.
It was interesting. I didn't know that in India people had issues with nudity and sexuality. We all get naked at some point of the day, and we do have sex, and Indians have a lot of sex because you reproduce a lot. So I didn't know that you had problems with that when it was shown in the film. So that was one of the reactions. But I also felt that there was a very welcoming sense of the difficult questions that are asked in this movie. And it's controversial. It's a tough movie to watch because it's a tough story. And I believe those are the most important stories. They need to be told. And to ask ourselves the same question, it doesn't really matter what the answer is, but it makes us create a debate from reason and not from our beliefs. And that is where I think is the most important thing we can offer as artists. Just a story that makes you ask yourselves questions. I don't know, Prakriti, if you have something else to say. You were naked.
Yeah.
I was naked.
Well, about
we had sex.
About the audience reaction, I felt that the people was very engaged with the story, and we talked a little bit with the people at the end, and a lot of people was very, very, very glad with the experience, and with a lot of questions. So that's the main part for us as filmmakers, in kind of way, to create a debate and discussions, and the people have to talk about the film and the reality that we show there. So I think that's the best gift when we do a film.
There was one interesting thing that happened. A teacher, she told us in the Q&A after the movie, she said that she was teaching kids from 15 to 17 years old, and she asked us how a transgender parent can affect their his or her children. And I told her something that I really truly believe. I have a 15-year-old boy, And discrimination is taught. We learn to discriminate, and we can unlearn it. So as a teacher, and as parents, and as part of families, we have to reprogram the discrimination that is taught to us as kids from our religion and from our moral values, because whatever your God is, your God should not discriminate. And that is something we should teach our children. If we teach that to our kids, we stop discrimination. Any kind of discrimination against women, against gays and lesbians, against transgender people, against Indians or blacks, or whatever your religion is. That is crucial.
I think Tamara has
an answer for that, yes.
Yeah, I fully agree with your comments, and it was quite shocking for me to understand, because I'm going to tell you briefly a story that happened to me when I was 13 or 14 years old. I was preparing a report for our history in the school, and they asked me to prepare something about Indian temples. And I went to the library and I made my report, and I made photocopies of several books, and I gave the report to my professor, and he came back to me and he told me, I cannot accept this report, but I will give you the opportunity to present a new one, because this one is very good, but I cannot accept it. And I didn't understand anything. I mean, I asked him, why? You must know why. Look at the pictures. And for the first time, I look at the pictures of the temples, and you had men having sex with men, women having sex with women, men with women, women with men, all positions, etc., etc. And I realized that all the pictures I choose from the temples were related to sex. And that was not allowed to talk about at this school. And now, when yesterday we had this questioning the fact that the movie talk about sex and gender, and have some nudity and some sex engagement, etc. And the question here in this environment was very frightening to me, because I didn't know. I mean, I thought that you were much more open about that, and I'm wondering that there will be a question for you. When did you shift from being an open society that, as it was in those temples, to be a much more closer society regarding to sex, and that could be a very for another environment, but a very good starting point for talking about the movie.
I have a point. I believe none of the temples have any statues or pictures of gods having sex. I think what you must have collected the pictures could be Khajuraho and other caves. Being an Indian, being a Hindu, I have not come across any temple where there is depiction of sex. I would just like to inform you. So I think you must have collected some other wrong pictures. And the question to you guys, the actors, how was it mentally and emotionally at the end of the day, while enacting, while the shooting was on? Were you having a balanced mind, a proper sleep, a sound sleep, or was it something which you were...
Of course not. No, I wasn't sleeping. I didn't sleep for 8 weeks. It was emotionally draining. I invite people to see the movie because I had some ideas about transsexuality. I spoke with Tamara previously in my radio show about it. I believe that one should inform oneself about issues that we don't understand in order not to discriminate them against them. But the inner process of coming to terms, Tamara was saying something yesterday that I think is very accurate. You have to fight 2 wars at the same time. One with yourself and the mirror, and coming to terms with who you really are, and understanding that you're packed in the wrong body and you have to do something about that. It's not a choice. You don't choose to be a transgender person. It just happens, and you have to be, you have to have integrity about it and go all the way to come to terms with who you are, yourself. And then you have to, at the same time, to do that publicly and to fight against society and against some religions and against the opinions of the people that will discriminate you and demand respect. At the end of the day, it's not about what you and I think about the transgender people. It's about the respect they deserve regarding of our opinions. And it was very draining, yes, very exhausting.
Yes.
Prakriti, let me ask you a question so you can answer
Yes,
both
of
together.
course.
So in what way did this, by the way, it was a fantastic film.
Thank you.
And many of the questions that you ask about sexuality in India, we Indians ask ourselves. So, as you know, everybody talks about the Kama Sutra coming from India, but then everybody lives in denial. It's across all religion. It's not just. It's every religion has this problem. I mean, I'm from
absolutely.
I'm Catholic, and we have the same issues. How did this role in this film challenge you in the sense? How was it different from the other films that you've done?
Yes. Well, this role for me, it was challenging from the very beginning, just to get the part, because I knew about the film in the pre-production. Fernandez was there already, issues, and I really wanted to be part. So I was like finding the way to put myself in front Elia Schneider and Joseph Novoa, because we never had worked before. So I needed to do 3 auditions. Elia is tough as a director, and she was looking like for the best for her films. So it was like, how can I show to her that I am the girl for the role, no? So, and after that, we had a very, very nice process, like table work, like 2-3 weeks every afternoon, talking about the scenes and every line and every word that I was going to say. And it was a very, very important process for build the role and the story. The challenge about the role per se, it was to understand, not in my thoughts but in my heart, the possibility to fall in love of a man who's going to change to be a woman, you know. I had the chance to talk with Maki, the wife of Tamara. My role is not about her. It's a fiction, absolutely. It's a different woman, but her wife has an experience like mine, like the experience of my role. So we talked a little bit about her experience. And I said to her, like trying to be funny, I don't know, like, well, I understand that you was a heterosexual woman who fall in love of a man, and then you have to be, to transform yourself to a lesbian, to be with the people who you love. And she was very, very rude and said, no, I am not lesbian. I am heterosexual. I am in love of a man, of her, of a Tamara. I don't like of the person who she is. I don't care if she is a man or a woman. She is the person who I love. So it was very important for me, that revelation, that of course it's not about her sexuality. It's about her love and her decision, and the way how you connect with that person and with that body. And I think that was important. And I think answer a little bit your question as well.
Any more questions from anyone?
I have one more question. We've had not many films, but a few films in the past which have basically tackled with transgender issues, some similar along these lines. But we've always had Hollywood A-listers to portray that character, be it Jared Leto in the Dallas Buyers Club, or for instance, Eddie Redmayne, yes, in The Danish Girl. So you've given a platform to Tamara, who's such a strong representative of the community. So do you think this will usher a mindset change in filmmakers all over the world?
I do. I believe that actors, you know what? I think that there was a turning point when Brokeback Mountain came out, that A-listers understood that good roles didn't have anything to do with the sexuality. It had to do with the people involved. And circumstantially, these two men fall in love, and they were played by A-listers, and Hollywood changed. And with that, everything changed along those lines. And actors understood that they needed to really be true to the characters and make justice to these men and women who goes through so much. So it's circumstantial now, and I believe that most serious actors are challenged by these roles, but go into them fighting with their own prejudices and trying to make justice to these characters whose stories deserve to be told on the screen. But there is a change, definitely, and those characters demand intimate scenes that are very tough to do because they sort of make you face your own fears and your own prejudice. And there's a scene in the movie I have with a transgender actress, a phenomenal actress, and I thought, when I discussed it with Elia, I thought it was okay, I can do it, there's no big deal. But when I was doing it, when I was playing it, I understood that I was raised Catholic with a lot of prejudices, and I thought I wasn't Catholic anymore. But prejudices are still there in my brain, and I have to go back and unlearn that, and change those judgments, and respect and honor the people that so bravely are giving us a lesson of integrity.
It was also when we shot the scene about this scene that he's talking about, even the camera and the photographer was inhibited to shoot that. So it was like was like a pressure in the room, and he slipped the camera like this, and said, "No, hold it there." And then he said, "Oh, but do I have to do that?" "Yeah, you have to do that." So that.
And the interesting part is that he's from Czech Republic. He's not Venezuelan. So it's still, I mean, we have prejudices all over the world, and this is a universal matter that needs to be dealt with and talked about.
Hi, my name is Hussein. My question is to Tamara. Tamara, do you think the social networking site has given a platform for the LGBT community to recognize themselves, which was not there a few years back? And same to Luisa also.
Certainly. I mean, there has been a huge opportunity for people of the LGBTI community to start to know that you're not alone. I mean, you have this strong feeling that you're the only one in the universe that is feeling some things. That was my feeling. That were my feelings when I was young. And back in that time, there was no internet at all, so it's the prehistorical times when you didn't have this kind of support. But I guess it's a huge opportunity for people to understand that you're not alone, and to exchange and to realize, try to understand the difficult path you have to transit, and how to overcome the situation.
And I do believe that social media is a great tool, and to give visibility to communities that have been neglected and discriminated against. But on the other hand, it also allows anonymous comments that can be very hateful. We've seen that, for instance, in the United States political campaign, and we see it every day. When I post something, it gives you the right to give me back an opinion, and I don't see your face. So ignorance, dogmatism, stupidity also comes in the social media. And it's an interesting war between the reason and the dogmatism. And you can see that on Twitter, and that's very interesting to watch. I am not that optimistic about human race, I have to be honest. We will still push forward evolution and human rights and reason. But there's a lot of stupid people out there, and we have to fight ignorance any way we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I thank the media and the team. I am sure your movie would do very well and bring a change in the mindsets of the society, the way we see people, and the minorities will surely get their rights back.
I hope so.
I wish you all a great success ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure to share ideas with you.